In 2014, St. Louis is celebrating 250 years of history. To commemorate the founding of the city, the Missouri History Museum has put together an exhibit called 250 in 250. This year-long exhibit will tell the city's history through the stories of 50 people, 50 places, 50 images, 50 moments, and 50 objects. The museum's public historian shares with us selections from one of the exhibit's 5 sections.
We're standing in front of the 50 people selections. This section of the exhibit is the first one that visitors see when they come into the exhibit space. When we had the exhibit team put together, the people section was the one people fought hardest for. Everybody had a certain person they really had in mind. So I think setting it up with the idea of people really is a strong starting point to talk about moments and that kind of thing. Some of them are St. Louis natives, born and raised here and did exciting things here. Some are people who came to St. Louis and did exciting things from somewhere else. And some are people who later on, they wanted nothing really to do with St. Louis, they just happened to be from here. One of my personal favorites is James Eads, who built the Eads Bridge. James Eads was a self-taught engineer. He taught himself from age 13 onward how to calculate structures and that sort of thing. And he basically made his early living by inventing a steamboat salvaging machine. Steamboats would be wrecked in the Mississippi River all the time, and he would go down and salvage the pieces from these and sell them. So the Eads Bridge was really significant because at the time it was the longest arch bridge in the world at over 6,000 feet long. And people were kind of terrified of it. They really didn't have a lot of faith in it. Today we think steel is very strong. They thought it looked like a skeleton. They thought it was ready to fall over at any time under its own weight. So Eads was really impressive to me just because of the national story associated with him, but also the fact that he taught himself how to become an engineer. Gertie Corey is one of our selections. She was a biochemist with her husband Carl Corey. They worked as a team at Washington University. She came from Prague with her husband, and when they came to Washington University, her husband got a job, and even though she had the same qualifications as him, she didn't. She was made a research assistant and given a salary 1/10 of his. Together, they figured out how glycogen is absorbed by the body, and they won the Nobel Prize for their discovery. She became the 3rd woman in history and the 1st American woman to ever win a Nobel Prize. When people think about ragtime, St. Louis has a close connection with ragtime, mostly because of Scott Joplin. Everybody immediately hears ragtime and they think of Scott Joplin. But Thomas Turpin is the man we chose for the exhibit, and Scott Joplin did not get chosen, because Thomas Turpin is the man who came before Scott Joplin even. Scott Joplin cut his chops playing in Thomas Turpin's saloon. Turpin first started publishing ragtime music in the 1890s, and he opened a saloon here in St. Louis called the Rosebud Cafe. And it was basically where any ragtime player came to test his mettle against other ragtimers. The other story that's not really as widely told about Turpin is the story of African American entrepreneurs who basically, people think of African Americans as sort of having to just play by the white person's rules in the 1800s. But these were African American entrepreneurs like Tom Turpin who basically set up their own business for blacks, by blacks, and found ways to make money and started this whole series of businesses within the African American community. A lot of times we hear about the race issues in St. Louis, but there was also a lot of really creative things coming out of the African American community that really get kind of glossed over. Some of the people selections have objects associated with them. Most of them come from our collections here at the museum and a couple from other places. Some of the really interesting ones, we have one of Chuck Berry's guitars that he actually loaned to us for this exhibit. Charles Lindbergh's flight suit is very popular with museum visitors. He's a popular symbol in the city. One of the interesting features that we decided to add in was that visitors could choose the 51st person, and each month they get to vote, and we'll put up whoever gets the most votes. And so some of these people we didn't put into the exhibit that are very famous St. Louisans, like I mentioned Scott Joplin or Miles Davis. people can vote for them, and we'll feature them for 1 month and then on to whoever they vote for next.